It's that time in the show where we check in on the livestock markets with our livestock marketing specialist, Dr. Derrell Peel. So Derrell, what's the mid-season feeder cattle report looking like?
You know, if you look at markets here in the middle of the year, the lightweight calves and stocker cattle have actually gone even a little bit higher than they were back in the spring. That's unusual from a seasonal standpoint. They usually drop off in the second half of the year. So it speaks to the fact that we've got continuing strength building in these markets. Calf prices in Oklahoma right now are running only about 8% below the all-time high that we hit at the end of 2014. The bigger feeder cattle actually have moved ahead of the all-time record high prices. They normally are going up seasonally through the summer, and they have been. So we continue to see strength in both of those markets.
So what about the fed cattle and boxed beef markets?
Fed cattle markets, much the same thing. You know, we passed all-time record highs back in April, I think, on fed cattle markets. We're still above that and kind of, a little bit more sideways through the summer here, but we will move higher as we get into the fall. Boxed beef markets have been pretty stable here lately. They dropped off from some mid-June highs, but they're holding pretty steady as we go through kind of the doldrums of the summer, if you will. We got one more push here for grilling season as we get closer to Labor Day. We'll see some wholesale beef demand ahead of that holiday.
So yeah, we got cloudy skies right now, green grass, and obviously the situation is a lot better now compared to last year. So what is the pasture conditions, overall for cattle producers in the state?
In Oklahoma, we had a very wet July, first half of the month. Really, knocked the drought down to minimal levels. We've gotten some more rain this past week. That's really gonna, especially in the northern part where we still had some residual drought. So pasture conditions are in much better shape. Hay production will be up. We don't have any numbers quite yet on hay production, but all in all, we're just in much better shape for pastures and range. Now, there's still some drought north and south of Oklahoma. So we're, as a country, we're still not totally out of it, but we're certainly in significantly better shape here in Oklahoma.
Do we expect to see those hay prices start to fall, do you think?
I think we will as we get into the fall. Again, we're making hay right now. This is not a time of year when we're normally trading a lot of hay, but as we build up these supplies and move into the fall, I think we'll probably see a significant reduction from the record price levels we had last year.
Yeah, every year when it gets to this time in August, I say, I can't believe it's already time to start thinking about grazing wheat, but it's basically that time for the early planted wheat. So what are those prospects looking like for cattle producers?
Again, if you looked at the rain we got in July, soil moisture conditions, even before these most recent rains were still pretty good, but we were starting to get a little bit dry. Now with these recent rains in the northern part of the state especially, I think we're in pretty good shape. For those producers who want to think about early planted wheat in late August into the first part of September, I think the conditions will be there for them to do that. And so, we'll start looking at kind of how the market shake out. Obviously, we've got tight feeder supplies, high-priced feeder cattle. So there'll be some economic penciling to be done, but I think from a production standpoint, we'll have opportunity to get some early planted wheat.
And that has to be great news because for the past 2 years, wheat grazing prospects haven't been really that great.
Yeah, we haven't had a good year for a couple of 3 years now.
All righty, thanks, Derrell. Dr. Derrell Peel, Livestock Marketing Specialist here at Oklahoma State University.